Hello guys, welcome to Knowledge India once again. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about auto scaling. Now many of you have requested and that's why I'm making this tutorial. We will go ahead and create an auto scaling group from scratch. We'll try to understand different aspects of that. So let us get started. Now in this particular architecture, what you see is that I've got an ELB which is there in the public subnet, and I have got few instances where my web application would be running, and that those instances are there in the private subnet, which means I'm not going to give a public IP to these machines. Also, they would not be reachable directly from outside internet. All the traffic would come via ELB to them, right? And this black dotted line, broken line, which you see, this represents auto scaling group. I'm not going to launch these instances manually. Rather, I'm going to set up an auto scaling group, and based on the conditions which we define in the auto scaling group, the number of instances would be launched and it would be maintained. Also, we'll go ahead and launch, we'll create a scale out and scale in policy. Scale out and scale in uh, you know relates to horizontal scaling, meaning when the load on the when the load on these instances increase, in order to keep the performance optimum, based on our defined condition, a scale out will happen. Scale out means addition of more instances, right? And the same way, when the load decreases, the instances would be removed, which is called a scale in. All right, we'll talk about few more concepts in the as we go ahead. So let us get started with the demo. So first of all, I have got one instance running. This is a simple instance. It has got a public IP. So there's an application running on this. Let us go and check that. So what you see is this is a simple application where there is a script inside which will help you to just load the instances. So when I press this button, it is going to load the particular machine, right? So what I will do is I'm actually gonna make image of this particular instance, and then we will use this image for all our web servers. All right, in order to save time, I have already created image of this particular instance, and it is available in my account. Now I'm gonna go ahead and launch an EC2. uh, Actually, we don't need to launch it as EC2. I'm sorry, I just wanted to show you this. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll just terminate this. I don't need this machine anymore. Now what we will do is this. In order to create a auto scaling group, first we do something which is called launch configuration, right? Now launch configuration is nothing but the collection of all the attributes which are required to launch an EC2 instance, right? So first we'll go ahead and create a launch configuration, and then we'll pass its ID to the auto scaling group. And with that, we are telling auto scaling group that whenever you have to launch instance, you have to use this configuration. All right, so let's go ahead and create a launch configuration. Okay, so I'll say create launch configuration, and I'm going to go to my AMIs, and I have this particular AMI. Okay, I want the instances to be T2 micro. That's okay. So if you see this particular set of steps, it is going to be same like how you give for launching an EC2 instance. So I'm going to give a name to this. Let me call it ASGL config. Do I want it to be spot instances? No. If you want, you can make it spot as well. Do I want to give any role to them? For now, no, but in case you want, you can give them. Suppose if you're you have some application on these instances which have to talk to some other AWS APIs, if they have to call some AWS APIs, you might go ahead and give them a role. If you want to understand an IAM role, there's another tutorial on the channel which you can go ahead and watch. There's a link also coming up. Do I want to enable detailed monitoring and all of that? If you want to give any user data, you can give. How much storage do you want? 8 GB is fine. And then a security group. So I'm gonna give a security group, a new security group, and let me call it web SG. And I'm going not gonna allow 22, rather I'll just allow port 80 on this, right? For now I'm opening it anywhere. We can go ahead and modify this as well later on. Now I'll go ahead and review. We can go ahead and look at everything. All right. Uh, yep, so we're good. Say what it wants. Should you must use my key? Create launch configuration. All right, so this is done. Now I'm gonna use this and basically create an auto scaling group. So if you see while I'm creating the auto scaling group, this is the launch configuration which I'm using. Right now I also need to give a name to auto scaling group. I'm going to call it ASG1. What is the group size with how many instances that should start? I want to do it 2 because I will be spreading it across two availability zones, basically across two subnets which are there in two different availability zones. All right, so I'm going to choose my VPC, and in this my VPC I have two private subnets. So I'm going to choose both the private subnets. Great. Anything more? No, I don't want it to get from multiple. Right, we'll go ahead, say next, and then we can go ahead and specify the scaling policy. So whatever I had given in the first screen, this is the desired number. It will start with this. I can also go ahead and give minimum and maximum. So I'm gonna, let's say in order to check this, I'll say start with 4. So that will be my desired number, and I'll say scale between 2 and 6, right? So minimum is 2 and maximum is 6. Now increase group size is my scale out policy, right? If you remember here, scale out policy, I'll go ahead and define a condition that if increase group size, I'm saying I'll add an alarm here. I'll say, if you want, you can send a notification. If average CPU utilization is, let's say, more than 80% for at least one period of 5 minutes, I would say, right? We can even do 1 minute, but I'm not enable detailed monitoring, so I'll leave it to 5 minutes. Then what do we want to do? We will go ahead and we will say add one instance in that case, right? Okay, and there's something more called warm-up period you see. With decrease, you don't have. With increase, you have something. Your instance needs how much time, in order to become usable. Let's say my instance needs probably 120 seconds or probably 60 seconds after that, right? Because all the services are inbuilt. Now this warm-up period is important in case you are executing something as part of user data. If you are executing as part of user data, once your instance comes up, then that user data gets executed. Hence you need to define this warm-up period accordingly, right? So if you are putting something more in user data, put an somewhat larger or somewhat longer warm-up period. In order for the decrease one, let me go ahead and say if this is say less than let's say 40% for this, then I would want to just one sec, I don't want to send this, then remove one instance, I would say. Okay, you can also go ahead and make it set to something and like a fixed number. I'm saying remove one, add one. You can also say set it to 10, set it to 5. That way also you can do. Also you can do it in form of percentage. So you can say remove 100%, remove 50%, add 50%, add 20% of the current size. So 3 ways: a fixed number in the form of percentage, and you can also set it to a fixed number, not like addition or subtraction. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and say next, and after that, no, I don't want to set any notification. If you want, you can set notification. You can give some key value pair. I'm just leaving it, and then you go ahead and say review and say create an auto scaling group. All right, now let's give it a minute. Okay, so we did everything, but we just missed one simple thing, right? What did we miss? We have created the auto scaling group. If you see, currently instances are it shows 0. If we go ahead and try to open this, desired is 4, right? Because we said that started with 4. Great, but currently instances are 0. So it will go ahead and it will show that it is trying to launch instances. It says failed. Let us see what is the problem. Oh, there has been a problem with the security group. So I created a security group which is probably created in the in the default VPC. So I need to go ahead and correct the launch configuration. So just let us go ahead and do that. All right, so I quickly created a new security group in my VPC, and I've added port 80 there. Now I'm gonna go and just we'll have to actually edit the launch configuration. It's not very difficult. Let us go ahead and do that. When we get some such type of issues, you also get to know what has gone wrong. So this was the thing which we were doing, right? So you cannot edit a launch configuration exactly, but you can copy it, of course. So we'll copy it to a new one, and then we'll go ahead and edit it. So other things I'll just keep the same. I'm just going to change the security group, right? So let us go ahead and see. Okay, this is the one which I want. All right, next review. I'll say continue. All right, and I'll say I also need to give it a name. Let us copy is fine. I'm just gonna say go to this one and say create. Okay, all right. So I guys, what I did is I just created a new launch configuration, right? And in this I have corrected the security group. So because the security group's scope is within a VPC, and the first time that UI was confusing, I chose a security group of other VPC. Now we need to go ahead to the auto scaling group. Let us go to the auto scaling group, and we will just update this. Okay, all right. So as you can see, currently no instances are launched. We will go ahead, we'll say edit, and we will update to this one. We'll say save. All right, so once this is done, it should now start launching the instances. Give it a minute. Yep, so instances have started coming up, though they are not yet in service. It will take a few minutes. In the meanwhile, we should go ahead and launch a load balancer. So let me go ahead. If you have launched a load balancer, you could have passed, like we could have passed its ID, but we have not. So let us go ahead and launch a load balancer. Currently we are doing classic. I'm going to cover application in one more tutorial. I'll just give it ELB1, and I'll create it in my VPC. All right, I want to accept traffic on port 80. All right, and I'm gonna place it in both the public ones, right? So I'll choose both the public. Yes, right. That's it. A security group, maybe I can give the same security group because I just want to accept 80 from everywhere. Yes, next. Okay. Health check. I don't remember the URL really, so I'm just gonna keep it this way. I think, yeah, this should work. Uh, right, I'm going to make the healthy threshold a bit lesser so that it comes into action quickly, and we will make it this lesser. So next, I'm not going to add the instances manually. I don't want that. uh, I'll just go ahead and see here you have connection draining and cross zone load balancing. I've explained cross zone load balancing in detail in case of ELB, but let us take 2 minutes and understand it. uh, in case of cross zone load balancing, what happens is once you enable cross zone load balancing, that the nodes which are launched because of the when the CLB gets created internally, it launches one node in both the subnets. We have given two subnets, if you remember, right? So the subnet, the node which gets launched here will distribute traffic only to the instances which are there in its availability zone. Same with this guy as well. Now if the number of instances are not same across different availability zones, the distribution would not be great. Hence, if you enable cross zone load balancing, the node here in this availability zone can send two instances here as well and here as well. So if you don't have equal number of instances, just enable it. Enabling generally is good. The second part is the connection draining. Now connection draining, you see that we have enabled connection draining. We have given some time. Connection draining comes into picture whenever an instance is getting terminated because of a scale-in policy, or if an instance becomes unhealthy. ELB will stop sending any more requests to that particular instance, right? But at the same time, we should not go ahead, and it should not go ahead and kill all the open connections immediately, and hence connection draining gives it some time so that already open connections get completed. Okay, so though there are instances running, but I'm not going to attach it manually. Rather, I will let it do via auto scaling group. I'll just show you it in a while. We'll go ahead. If we want, we can add some tags. We'll go ahead and say create. So this should create my load balancer, right? Just let us give it a minute. Say close. All right, so now the load balancer is created. We will go back to our, I'm gonna close this. We'll go back to auto scaling group and let us refresh this. Refresh above, you see 4 instances are launched and all are successful. Great. Now let us go to details and we can, you see in the load balancer there's no value currently. I'm gonna say edit and I'm gonna give my load balancer which I created ELB1. I'll just say save. So once we do that, we should start seeing instances here. Let me show you something in the meanwhile. I'll go ahead and um, you know, I'm just gonna go and terminate 2 of these instances. So this will give you an idea how auto scaling group ensures that if one of the instance goes bad or something happens, it will go ahead and maintain the fleet, right? So I'm just terminating some of the instances. Okay, one more, let's say. Let us go and look at its history. Uh, so if you see, what has happened is the desired has actually reduced. The desired has reduced because one of the scaling policies would have got executed, right? Uh, the utilization is continuously low and hence desired has decreased. And currently there are 5 instances, so it is going to get rid of instances. It is deleting some of the instances. Uh, it is managing it. Let's see how many instances are running as of now. 2 are running. Okay. Okay. Let's see. So what is the desired number? Desired number is 3. Okay, so ideally one more instance should come up. Oh, is this not updated? Mismatch. Right, it takes few seconds to reflect, of course, and the one which is gone is reflecting here. So now it should go ahead and launch one more instance, and you can see one more instance should come up here, right? Also, let us go ahead and check. So as one instance gets added in some time, it will go ahead and it will be in service. You might not see this things coming into service immediately because understand in health check we have defined that for every call it is gonna give 15 seconds, right? When one health check happens, after that it will give 15 seconds, and post that it will wait for 5 seconds for the reply to be back. And when 4 such checks become okay or come positive, then only an instance would be marked healthy. We can go ahead and even edit this, make it lesser, and this is just going to help us. So I'll give it a minute. The understand that when instances come up, it takes some time, right, before it becomes usable. So we'll give it few seconds. In the meanwhile, what we will do is, now that we have 3 instances running, I'm gonna go ahead and take this ELB's public domain and I'm going to copy this and we will put it here. So you can see it gives the EC0, which is the instance ID. You can see, so this one which is running, there it is sending the traffic. You can see that one is in service currently. We'll give it a few more seconds so that others come into service. All right, so our one more instance has become green here. We can check its status. Here it is in service, that particular instance. One more instance should be, in service just in a while. So understand, whenever an instance gets launched, it of course takes a few seconds or minutes. So you need to factor that time, guys. All right. Now, this one is 0C and C0 at the end. Let us go ahead and refresh our application. So it was going to C0. Let us see if it changes. Doesn't seem to be changing. Currently going only to one. Okay, so now it started serving to the other one. All right, in case of HTTP request, it goes to the, it is not a round robin, it rather goes to the instance which has the least number of open connections. In this case, the connections are really less, so it is, you'll not see just, real round robin there. uh, all right, so now this instance is in, and we should see it in service very soon. Now what we want to do next is, there is a load test button here. When we will press this load test button, it is going to actually load our servers, right? And it will increase the CPU utilization of those machines, and then we will see the scale out policy kicking in. Okay, so let's just see this once. We have currently the desired reached at 4, because though it started with 4, but the desired has reached 3 now, because the CPU utilization has been constantly less. The number of instance has been removed, so this saves money for you, right? Okay, now let us go ahead and check quickly. Okay, so our third instance is also in service, right? Now let us go ahead and refresh this couple of times. C0, 0C. All right, now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to press on load test, and this will go ahead and increase the load on machine. And also this page refreshes every 5 seconds, so basically the request would go to different instances. We will go ahead and look at the, look at the utilization, and we'll see if the policies kick in. Right, now we have defined the, the condition, if you remember, to be of 5 minutes. So it is going to take few minutes. I'm going to pause this video so that you don't have to wait, and I'm going to resume as soon as it kicks in. Right, so this is where we pause it. Okay, right. Well, the other policy got executed, so the load, I think, hasn't worked, and because of that, it the load did not work really, and because of that, the other policy has gone ahead and decreased one more instance, has terminated one more. So if you actually see here, one more is gone. So now there are only two instances, EB and 0C. We'll go ahead and we'll try to load it, because we had kept the desired value to be higher, but we started with a smaller number, and in that duration there was no load. And because of that, because it is less than 40%, it is just terminating the instances. So we'll go ahead and load it, and then we'll see. Now we are anyway at minimum, so it cannot remove any further. Now there are only two instances and minimum is 2, so it has to go ahead and, as the load increases, it will have to launch new instances. Now some of you might be thinking that this is taking really long time, but remember guys, we have not enabled detailed monitoring on our EC2 instances. That means only every 5 minutes the metrics are getting collected. As you can see, in the last 5 minutes, like, it went somewhat higher. So like, only every 5 minutes it is getting collected, and same way our alarm policies are also defined, and hence it is taking more time. While you are trying it out, you can maybe just enable detailed monitoring and then test it out. You will see the results faster. If you remember, the the policy, the scale out and scale in policy which we defined, uh, we had we had given the duration of like uh, one period of 5 minutes, so that's basically uh, 300 seconds, so we have to wait for that much time, right? Sorry to keep all of you waiting. All right, guys, the other policy just got executed, and we are launching auto scaling group launched a new instance. You can see that it has become 3, a new instance has come up, right? Okay, and we'll also see that instance automatically gets registered here, and currently it is out of service, but within few seconds or minutes it should be there in service. So I know it was a long tutorial, but let me summarize some of the things for you. You can go ahead and create an ELB, and then uh, give it as give its ELB ID while you're creating the auto scaling group. Before creating the auto scaling group, it is important that you create the launch configuration, where you will specify everything, that what is the image ID, what is the instance type, which security group to be used, what key pair, and also things like whether you want to do detailed monitoring, basic monitoring, we want to provide any user data, all such things, security group, everything you will give in the launch configuration. Then you pass this launch configuration ID, ELB's ID, into the auto scaling group while you are creating. What is the cooldown period? Cooldown period, let me show you. Cooldown period is something here. So cooldown period is the duration for which the auto scaling group would wait when it executes one scale in or scale out policy. Once it does one scale in or scale out, for next this much time it will not do anything, right? So in our case it is 5 minutes. That's the default one. We can go ahead and even change that if you want. So that's your cooldown period. We talked about warm-up period, which we give with the scale out policy, that after an instance gets added, right, how much time your instance actually takes in order to become operational. So you should know your instance uh, you know warm-up time, basically, that after launching what all you execute, accordingly you should provide the warm-up period. We also talked about connection training and the cross zone load balancing. So I hope you find it useful. Go ahead, try it out, and it should be good. If you want to basically download the script which was there, I would try to put it in the link. Thank you, guys. Yeah, and remember to share this with your friends. Thank you. Bye.